following program is intended for mature audiences.
I'm going to be honest with you, bro.
I'm going to beat up John Cena.
Oh, it's a great idea.
So who the hell do you think you are?
I was going to dress up like Bruce the Barber Beefcake, cutting and strutting, and then I was going to beat up John Cena. Wonderful. I mean, come on. What's more fun than beating up John Cena?
Suplex City, bitch.
Beat up John Cena!
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
And welcome once again, everybody, to the Weekly Suplex. My name is Brian Thomas, joined, as always, by my co-host, Juice Springsteen. Juice, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I got a little bit of a, I don't know what you want to call it, end of summer cold. Our temperatures have been really bizarre here in Minnesota the last week or so, and last night I had a show where I played some music for some people, and I got home and my face felt like it was hit by a semi. It was really weird. But, you know, I'm glad it waited till at least I got home.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Other than that, though, I'm doing pretty good. We got some interesting things to talk about as far as what happened this week on Raw.
Yeah,
I think that's the topic I'm going to focus on most here because I'm a little perplexed at what the heck they think they're doing with the main event of your Hell in a Cell for Raw. So we'll talk about that and a couple other things. But hey, man, All In is here. We're in All In weekend. Starcast began last night. It's been going all day today. It will go all day tomorrow, and we'll go into Sunday. But the big main event is the All-In pay-per-view that takes place tomorrow night. An early time. I thought that was kind of interesting. They're in Chicago, so it's Central Time, and yet they're still starting the show early. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the kickoff show, it starts at, I think it's 5 o'clock Central Time. And then the pay-per-view is 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 Eastern. So that's a little odd start. But I guess if you're thinking about it in the terms of WWE, that's kind of what they're doing now too, right?
Yeah, and we don't really know how long it's going to be. I'm curious, the small things, you know, like the production. Like who's going to be – did they fund out to Ring of Honor guys or the New Japan guys to help with production or – you know, the stage setup, like who did they contact for that, you know?
I believe Ring of Honor is taking the lead on that. I think that Ring of Honor is one of their big partners now. They decided to help partner it. They didn't put a lot of money into it, but I think they're going to use Ring of Honor's production team and all that kind of stuff. They're going to broadcast it on the Honor Club. If you are an Honor Club member, you can get 50% off. If you're a Honor Club VIP, you get the whole thing for free, which is kind of cool. So if you're part of that, you get that. Fight TV, I'm guessing, will probably be involved in some way. Global Force Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett's company, is involved in some way. So they've got plenty of people there who know what they're doing as far as a production standpoint goes. And enough of them that they can probably get staging and lighting figured out. So I am also curious, though, to see what they do. I mean, obviously, if you watch the last NWA 10 Pounds of Gold series, or the last couple, in one of them leading up to it, Cody Rhodes does mention that they've had ring aprons made for the show. They've had all this stuff going on to make it look really good. So I'm curious to see what it looks like, too. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to watch it live. It's just not... I don't like the outlets, personally. Honor Club. Do you have Honor Club?
What was that? You asked me if I have it?
Yeah.
No, I do not have Honor Club.
Okay. So I don't know. I went and looked at Honor Club because, I enjoy Ring of Honor as well. But I looked at the Honor Club, and it doesn't look like it's on anything other than the web. And that is a major turnoff for me. I don't like watching things over the web. You got to have an app, at least for an iOS or Android device to use. And I don't think they have that. At least if they do, they're not advertising it. So that kind of turned me off there. And Fight TV, I just haven't bothered to look into that at all. It just never was one of those things I really cared to look into. So I don't know. And it sounds like the event is going to be like $40.
Yeah, and the other thing we talked about production again. It's interesting if Ring of Honor is the one, really kind of backing with a lot of the production stuff. It's almost like a test run for them. They can kind of do something a little different than their normal show because it's not a Ring of Honor show. And if they find ways to do things in a better way or lighting, whatever, and if it works out for this all-in show, they can adapt that to their show. So I like how all involved can really help everybody else out. It's all in. Everybody's helping each other. It's a good place to be if you're not in the WWE or if you're in the WWE, because I'm sure it'll help everybody around.
Yeah, I think it will, and I think it's a great thing for independent wrestling, especially for groups like you said. New Japan is taking place in this. They've got their championship on the line in this event. The NWA, Billy Corgan, is involved. His championship is highlighted pretty high up there. Ring of Honor's championship is high up there. I mean, there's people from all over. The top women in the independents are being highlighted on here. And heck, you even got Stephen Amell from the Arrow character out. He's stepping in the ring against Christopher Daniels. I mean, they've got celebrities. They've got people from all these different major promotions. It's really cool.
And remember, Stephen Amell did stuff at SummerSlam. Like, he's been to the highest level, and now he's definitely down to do this. And it's really cool. It's really cool to see that.
It is cool. And again, I do highly recommend, if you haven't gone out and watched these 10 Pounds of Gold series, especially the ones leading into this event all in here. Steve Amell is on them. They show him training with Cody Rhodes in the ring. It's kind of cool. I mean, the guy takes it seriously, so more props to him for that. I don't know if he wants to be a wrestler in the future, as well as an actor or whatnot. You'd think that the acting guild would get a little pissy about that, taking bumps like that. Yeah. But
hey, that's why The Rock hasn't had a match in how long?
That's true. In The Rock's case, he's been involved in wrestling for a long time, so that's a little more easy for them to swallow, whereas Amel's had one match, right? And
right.
He did a really good job in that match, bumping for people, so kudos to him, but I still, his bread and butter is acting, and if I'm a director of a series that he's in, I don't want him potentially injuring himself in a ring, getting thrown around. But,
true, but I'm sure they've got it all. It's not
I'm sure too. I'm sure too. More power to him, though. I mean, that's awesome. If that's a passion of his and he's going for it,
exactly.
Great.
Why not?
Why not?
It's a great
exactly.
opportunity. You can expand your horizons. Hey, everybody's doing the wrestling thing now. Everybody. If you're a UFC fighter, you do wrestling. If you're an actor, you do wrestling. It's crazy.
It is. It's really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes off. I'm looking forward to seeing the reviews on what people think of it and what people thought of it as it comes through. I know if you're a subscriber to the New Japan over the top piece, so you'll get to watch this event right after it airs. It'll be available to stream on their service right after it airs for free. So that's kind of cool. So you'll have to let me know if you do watch it, how it looked, how it came across, and how it ended up being, because I'm very curious.
Yeah, it should be a fun show, and I was planning on going to the show, but I did not get the time off to go, which is unfortunate.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, but luckily there's going to be a big show at the Garden next year before Mania, and I'm going to try to go to that one instead. So.
Yeah, that's the Ring of Honor G1 Climax thing, right?
Yeah, it's like the combination of Ring of Honor New Japan at the Garden, and although this all-in show really is a historic night for the wrestling business as a whole, that is another one. A non-WWE company going into the Garden WrestleMania weekend, I think is going to be just as big, if not bigger. So
well, and shame on WWE for not booking any of their events. I mean, they have a ton of events, and not booking a single one in Madison Square Garden after years and years of association.
Yeah, the logistics of it apparently, and how they do things now is just not set to run there. They can do Barclays for cheaper and easier, so I think that they're set with that now. And
yeah.
Well, if that's the way they want to do it, hey, more power to Ring of Honor for taking advantage of it then.
Absolutely, and WWE obviously isn't having a big hoopla about it like they did the MLW show. They got MLW knocked out of there, but Ring of Honor and New Japan are just fine. So they must not see them as that big a competition, whereas MLW is. And I think it mostly boils down to the fact that MLW is more in their market area compared to. Although, where is MLW based in Florida? They're based in Florida, so I don't.
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe they look at them as big competition for NXT. Who knows?
Yeah. So I don't know what they would think of that, but I mean, I don't know. WWE's mindset is all over the place sometimes, as we'll discuss here with their booking decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about their booking decisions. So we talk all in here, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope it goes great. I hope they do extremely well. I hope there are no snafus, because this is a big deal for the independent wrestling community. Let me tell you one thing, Juice. Here in Minnesota, we have two companies really that are, I think, basically the same company, but they do events as two different names. Heavy On Wrestling is one of them, and First Wrestling is the other. And they have sold out the last 6 or 7 shows that they've done. And they're not in Minneapolis per se for all these shows. The most recent one was, and they had Nick Aldis in town, and he defended the NWA World Championship against Mr. Anderson, Ken Anderson. So that was kind of cool. But even in these obscure towns like Tower, Minnesota, which I don't even know where Tower, Minnesota is, right? But
and you're from there.
And I am. And they sold it out. And way in advance. They're selling out all these places. Duluth, Minnesota, which is a bigger city, but it's up north about 2.5 to 3 hours away from Minneapolis. Beautiful area, by the way. But they're selling out all their shows, and it's just awesome. And if I even think about wanting to go to one of their shows, I can't, because it literally is selling out. So the state of independent wrestling right now is on fire, and it's fantastic to see, because I remember probably about 10 years ago, maybe even a little more, maybe 15 years ago, going to a local independent wrestling show called Midwest Pro Wrestling in Minnesota, and you'd go into this place, and it was just this tiny little room. It almost basically looked like it was, I don't even know what to call it. It was a ring, and they had a little bit of risers on one side, and then 3 rows of chairs on the other side. That was it. You maybe could fit 50 to 60 people in there, tops. And that would be half empty for these shows. And you'd be watching people like AJ Styles, who at the time was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Christopher Daniels, these people would come in all over. They had the only event I remember going to that was really big, the AJ Styles one, and Christopher Daniels came on the same night. That one had a full capacity. And the only other one that they ever did was they had a deal with Shakira Pro, and they came in and they had what they call the World Series of Wrestling, which, by the way, you can get on DVD if you wanted to watch it. It's really good, well worth having if you're an independent wrestling fan. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome to see them filling out 300, 400, 500 seats, sometimes more, for these independent shows now. So state of independent wrestling is on fire, and this is just going to, I think, propel it even more. There are alternatives to WWE like there haven't been since WCW was around.
Yeah, and the best part is, even though technically they are competition to WWE is bringing in a lot of these new guys in, giving them chances. The Mae Young Classic, the Cruiserweight tournaments, the UK tournaments. NXT is just on fire. There's always more options if you do want to go to that WWE route. And there's things you can do that you don't even, if you don't want to actually be in the WWE, if you just want to be in NXT, you probably can just make that happen. You can make these things, these opportunities, take these opportunities, and you don't necessarily have to go through the gamut of making it to WWE. You can start small and, have a decent career in NXT if you wanted to. The opportunities are all over the place, and I think it's great.
It's phenomenal. And, like you said, WWE is showcasing a lot of these independent talents. The Mae Young Classic's coming up. Madison Rayne is involved in that. Chelsea Green was recently looked at by the WWE. I mean, all these people who have been on things like Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, a lot of New Japan people and UK people coming in all at once, and these are names that people may have heard of in the past. Now they get to actually see them on a big platform. It's been pretty awesome. So I really like that WWE is helping with that in some ways. No, they're hindering it in other ways, but still, really cool. A great time to be a professional wrestling fan, especially if you just want to go watch a wrestling match and you can hit an independent scene and see names that you've seen before. And they're not all old people, which is nice,
Yeah.
you know? Because for a long time, you had to watch old hacks wrestle who were way past their prime. And it's cool to see the nostalgia part of it, but they can't work as well anymore. And you're just like, ugh, you know? So now you get these guys that you've seen maybe on an Impact Wrestling or a TNA or a Ring of Honor for one that are out there working independent dates, and you can watch them at your hometown. And I think that's awesome. So let's get into the WWE's booking, because what we saw on Raw made me basically chuckle and shake my head at the same time. We've been watching Roman Reigns get his butt booed out of buildings for how long now? At least 2-3 years?
Yep, pretty much. Ever since they said, we're going to give him these opportunities after you guys wanted him to have the opportunity. It was Royal Rumble 2014, and he was killing it. Even though the Shield had not broken up yet, he was clearly he was the big dog. Everybody in that building, I was there, were fully behind him. They wanted him to win, and he didn't win.
Yep.
And after that, it was like, okay, it's moot, whatever. And then once Daniel Bryan was not in the 2015 Rumble long enough for the fans, and it seemed like they were pushing Roman Reigns even more, and we didn't want that, that's when it started turning. So it's pretty much 3 years, almost. I mean, just going on more.
Well, and that was the big problem, I think, is that they tried to make his run too much like what they did with Daniel Bryan, and fans were fed up with that kind of crap, you know?
Yep.
Having him come close to winning or winning and then having it taken away. And it's just like, we've seen this before, and it worked once. It's not working again, and they turned on him. And so, yeah, they finally pulled the trigger. You and I have been saying all along they just need to bite the bullet and do it. They finally do it at SummerSlam, and it's been good. You know, I think the fans are warming up to Roman Reigns as Universal Champion for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's there, right? He's at Raw every week, and I know it's only been 2-3 weeks or whatever since SummerSlam.
Yeah, but hey, that's better than once every 2
4
months.
months. Yeah, no, and,
4.
And I think that this past Monday when he came out, I mean, the fans like the Shield part, right? And when he came out, more fans were cheering for him than there have been in many, many, many moons. So he's obviously getting some overness now, and I think that people just were waiting for him to finally pull the trigger before they can finally say, okay, good. And putting him with the Shield again is a good move, because nobody wants to boo Dean Ambrose. Nobody wants to boo Seth Rollins. So what do? You boo Roman Reigns and cheer the other two? It just doesn't work as well. But then, they put Braun Strowman out there. Everybody wants to see Braun Strowman cash in the Money in the Bank because they love Braun Strowman. And this is a guy who was a heel for so long that got over because he was just... every time he did something, you just went, yeah, you haven't seen that since Stone Cold Steve Austin type thing, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And he's getting that kind of a pop from the crowd, so he's your most over babyface. So what's the logical thing you do? You try and turn him to a heel against Roman Reigns by lining him up with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler? I don't know that it's going to work.
And I'm really torn on this because I think everybody, at least at this point, until we see, another episode of Raw, I'm not convinced that he is a full-blown heel right now. And just because he aligned himself, in quotes, with these two other guys, I don't think that necessarily means he's full-blown heel now. I don't know if it's that or if he's just using these guys because he knows the Shield is a really tough thing to get past. He needs to have two other guys maybe dismantle the other two so he can just have Roman by himself, which is all he wants. Maybe he's trying to even the playing field. Maybe he ditches these guys after. I don't know.
No.
We've only seen a week of it, I wouldn't jump to too many conclusions, but I mean, hey, that's what we do. We're wrestling fans. We always want to know what's going to happen. So I just am excited. It's got my interest peaked. I'm very excited to see what happens this Monday because I don't think it's as clear cut as everybody says.
Well, they've already announced for the Super Show in Australia that it's going to be the Shield versus Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler. So we're going to see this alliance for at least a month, right?
Yeah.
They also announced that we have Hell in a Cell matches. And wow, was I way off on my choices for what should be in the Hell in a Cell. They went the complete opposite direction. And now announced for actual Hell in a Cell matches at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view are Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton and Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns. Whoa. I mean, to me, I thought they had ready-made feuds already on SmackDown, and I can't see them putting another Hell in a Cell match on the pay-per-view. Can you?
The only way they would be if there would be a women's one, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point. And I find it interesting that Jeff Hardy gets to do that with Randy Orton. I find it fascinating almost, but I think it's really set for, and I'm sure you'll agree here, Jeff Hardy hasn't been doing a lot of swantons. He's been cutting back on the house shows. Maybe he gets one big opportunity again to showcase that in Hell in a Cell. Maybe he does one more crazy bump before he's all said and done. I think that the writing's on the wall for that.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Maybe this is the way that they write him out of storylines to go heal up.
Here, let's write you out of storylines. Oh, by the way, you have to do a swanton off the top of the cell through the announce table.
Right? I mean, you never know. Man. It definitely would give him a good reason not to be around. But I don't know. I'm not sure that he's going to be going away, per se. I mean, I think that he's been feeling good. He's he got feeling again in his arm, which I guess was a problem for him for a while. So I'm not exactly sure he's going away yet. And he's already started to kind of hint that he's becoming broken again.
Yeah.
So do you throw that out the window?
You throw it off the cells, what you do.
He's definitely going to take some kind of a wacky, crazy bump because this is Jeff Hardy we're talking about, and that's just what he does.
And
just
I would
imagine
Randy
what
Orton
it's going to
gets
be
out of the way. I assume it. I don't think Orton's going to take the bump. He'll lay there, but I don't think he's going to take it. I mean, that's your classic Jeff Hardy thing, though. So
they better reinforce that announce table really well because he comes head first in this bump. It's not a back bump or one false move, and that could be death-defying. Ugh. So everyone's
hopefully it is
be
defying death. Yeah, no,
right. Death. Everyone's going to be watching to see what kind of crazy crap he does. I think everyone expects what you do, and that's a swanton off the top of the cell. Yep. But you never know. It could be something completely different. It could be just Randy Orton tossing him off the cell.
I could see that. Or a punt, and then he gets them all disoriented and then chucks them off. I could see that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't seen the punt in a long time, have we?
No. And, why not bust that out?
What better time than in Hell in a Cell? And Hell in a Cell is like a street fight. Like a street fight is really nothing anymore. They really don't have that, unless it specifically says Falls Count Anywhere. Hell in a Cell is the match that they take more seriously as anything can happen. So why not pull out the punt there,
Well, absolutely. Why not? I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm not sad by either of the two Hell in a Cell matches. I just really wanted to see AJ and Joe in the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, but you did. And, we're not going to get that, unfortunately.
That's okay, I guess, because you got plenty of time to build to something else that they can do. And, their feud is phenomenal. Having Joe come out mid promo and just basically choke AJ out was amazing. And then this last week where he's in the backstage and he gives Wendy a call on the cell phone, just awesome heel work.
Very nice stuff.
Absolutely. Joe and AJ is your perfect booking so far for a feud. This is what Shinsuke and AJ should have been as far as booking goes. And I love it. It gives Joe the element to his character that he needs, that he's been lacking in the WWE.
Yep.
And hopefully, I'd be okay with the title switch to Joe and then hot shot it back to AJ at some point. I wouldn't be sad with that.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to.
I want him to get that record.
Yeah, I think they're going to have him get that record. How far away is he? Do we know? He can't be that far.
I will look right now.
All right.
So find something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, and then the other thing that is baffling to me right now is this whole Bayley Sasha thing. Like, they pulled the trigger on the heel turn for Bayley, and then it's almost like they decided that was a bad idea, backtrack it, and now it's just gotten to the point where it's just yuck on TV. I mean, I don't like the whole angle, the whole hug, whatever they call it, boss hug team.
Yeah, I don't
It's
get that
so
either.
phony and stupid that it just... I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to turn, and it just isn't happening. And that someone, in my opinion, needs to be Bayley.
Ideally, you would think so. I just think that the WWE is so invested in having her being the one for the kids. It's almost the character you can't turn. It's like Hogan. Which again, Hogan eventually turned, but it's hard for them to believe that that's the right move.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
it could very well be. I don't know. It just seems like if Sasha turns on Bayley again, it's kind of like, yeah, no big deal because we figured that was going to happen. But if Bayley turns on Sasha, that's a bigger deal because no one thinks that is going to happen. But that's what it should be because it has more impact, I think. Unfortunately, I think you're right, and they look at the kids and how over she is as a character for kids, and it's hard to take that away because who do you replace it with right now in the female roster? There's not a whole lot to do that with. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see that. I love the Becky Lynch heel turn / everyone loves her. So she's not really a heel in their eyes, but she's doing heel stuff. I absolutely love what's going on. She's doing her damnedest to be booed by fans, but they're not going to boo her. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. And she should embrace it, and she should continue to do heel stuff and be angry and not like the fans and whatnot. But let them cheer her because they've been waiting for so long to cheer for her for something around the title, and they're finally getting it. And let's face it, the fans are kind of at that point with Charlotte where they really like her, but she doesn't need a title. And to have the title on her, they don't care for.
It's just a confusing situation on both ends with those. Real quickly, if AJ Styles holds the belt until Royal Rumble, which is the day before my birthday, it'll be 447 days, something like that. So I think that's the goal. I think he loses it again to The Miz, and I'm going on record saying The Miz beats him at the Royal Rumble for it. Daniel Bryan wins the Rumble and sets up Miz Bryan again, this time with the biggest prize in sports entertainment on the line at WrestleMania. But that would clear him up. He's at 297 days, and I did a guesstimate about 150 days would clear him, and 150 days threw him right to January 28th, which is my birthday, but the day before is the Rumble. So I think that might set up.
Well, I mean, that's a long time for him to keep that belt still. I thought he was in the 300s for some reason. I thought he was a little further along than that. But, I wouldn't be sad to see him be champion that long. I mean, I love AJ Styles, and he's by far my favorite wrestler of the last 15 years. So to keep the title on him is cool by me because you're guaranteed decent matches almost every time he goes out there. So I'm okay with that, especially for the WWE Championship, where that seems to be more like the Intercontinental Championship was before, where you get the good wrestling out of it. So Royal Rumble, yeah. I mean, I think your take is awesome. I would be very curious to see if they go that route and have The Miz take the title, and then that force it. But they're still pushing Daniel and The Miz together. They're gonna push the Bellas versus the Miz and Mrs. TV show feud.
And I think I don't know if I'm really stealing from anybody, but I mean, there's been ideas floating around. You could do a Survivor Series match as well. Team Bryan, Team Miz. You could even have some of the guys on Team Bryan be the bingo hall guys that Miz callously calls about, and have Miz have full-blown WWE guys. I think, you have like a Randy Orton on his team, and Daniel Bryan could have Cesaro on his team, maybe a Nakamura if he's has a face again. But I think there's a lot of avenues you can do that get you to that point. It's just whether or not they decide to do that or not.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're going to go the route of Daniel Bryan, Miz at WrestleMania, which they have to do, whether it's for the belt or not, I think that's the money there. They need to, at some point, have Miz refuse to wrestle him for a while, right?
I think that'll happen.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but Daniel has to lose every match going into this. He has to lose each time.
That's classic. Yep.
But will they do that or not is the question. Because do you think they put the Miz and Maurice over Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella?
Yeah, but you can have that happen without Daniel Bryan taking the pin, but it's still a win, and the Miz and Maurice will love that. And especially, again, if you did a Survivor Series match, Daniel Bryan's team could win, but Daniel Bryan could get eliminated, and that's all that matters. And the Miz can use all this stuff as a ploy to move the feud further.
Yeah. It'll be curious to see how they book it, because I think they have a lot of potential in this feud, especially with the history behind it and everything else. They've been doing a good job with it so far, so I'm very intrigued with that feud. It's one of my favorites going on as well. But again, sounds like they're gonna have Maurice versus Brie at the Evolution pay-per-view, so that'll be another story chapter in this. But again, I think you have to have the Bryans lose. Or the Danielsons, whatever you want to call them, the Bennetts. They all have to lose.
Yeah. That's what the middle called.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the name everyone's going to call them. But I'm curious to see where they go. I really like what they've done so far. I thought that they would keep, when The Miz came out and said he's taking care of Daniel Bryan, I thought that was the start of the I'm not going to touch you again or wrestle you again because I don't need to. And they ended up having it be a lead-in for the match at TLC, which is fine for me. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes from there and where it goes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. However it shakes out. You need a cough button over there.
Oh, I got a cough button. It shouldn't be on the recording there.
Oh, beautiful.
Anyway, so let's see. Anything else big that happened that I didn't discuss? I know that here's one thing that kind of irked me. So we talked a lot in the last couple of weeks about the tag team thing, right?
Yeah.
And how they keep pushing the same 2 tag teams or 3 tag teams all the time, yet they have all this tag team talent just being wasted. So what happens this last week on SmackDown and this coming week on SmackDown? Oh, we start 2 triple threat tag team matches to determine the challenger for the New Day for the titles. So what we're saying is we've got 6 other tag teams that could be the challengers here. And what do we see happen?
Go ahead.
The Bar, who already lost to the New Day to have them take on the Bludgeon Brothers, wins their match. And in that match, you had the Colognes, which, whatever on that. Nobody even knows they're still even on WWE's roster. They've been pushed way down so far. It's so sad. And then the other team that lost in that match, who was the other team that was in that match? The Colognes versus the Bar versus...
I can't think at the moment.
Oh, my head is... It was the team that I wanted to win, and now I can't think of who it was. What the hell? It'll come to me. But anyway, you got those teams finally facing off, right? Now, this next week, we have another 3 teams facing off against them. So... I really, really hope that the Usos don't win that match.
Yeah.
Because, God, how many times do we need to see the same teams being pushed?
I don't know. I was going to ask you your thoughts on the Trish Stratus thing, her appearance on Monday. I thought it was. I mean, we know that she's from Toronto, but it was still kind of a surprise to me. I didn't know she was going to come out there, and hell, Elias is getting all these big moments. I'm still waiting on the Rock one personally.
I'm sure that'll come, and it'd probably be either closer to or at WrestleMania, I would say.
Yep, I think so too. That'd be great. That's the crazy part. He doesn't even have to have a match to have like one of the bigger spots of the show. So that's good for him.
For sure. I liked the segment. I thought it was hilarious. I laughed my ass off at the barbs that those two were throwing at each other. I thought they did a really good job. But I think it fell flat on really pushing the match with her and Alexa Bliss. And I get that Alexa Bliss came out, but it was kind of just to set up the match that was going to take place after that segment, which was kind of, I thought, a wasted moment. You could have had those two kind of get into it, and you didn't really get it. So I was a little upset with that, but the Elias Trish stuff was great.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice little showcase, and again, great barbs thrown back and forth, and Trish still has it. I'm excited. I'm looking forward for Hell in a Cell to kind of get over with and see more of the hype for this Evolution pay-per-view, honestly.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you on
I don't
that
know,
as well.
We've never seen something like this before, so they're going to really push this out for programming because it's all women. So you're not going to – the men's storylines are going to take a pause other than the Super Showdown, but they really are going to take a pause on TV.
Well, this brings up another great point. So we got the Superstar Showdown, which is at the beginning of October, right? You got the Evolution pay-per-view, which is on, I believe, the 22nd-ish of October.
Yeah, something like that.
And you mentioned last week that the WWE was planning to go back to Saudi Arabia. It has now been confirmed that they are going, and it's like November 5th.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a pay-per-view every couple weeks, basically. There hasn't been word yet that they're going to show the Saudi Arabia event on the network, but I would assume they will. I can't imagine they won't. But if they do, you're looking at the Superstar Showdown in Australia. You're looking at the Women's Evolution pay-per-view. Then you're looking at the Saudi Arabia thing. Then you got Survivor Series. So again, we're going to cram all these big shows in this little time. I'm kind of worried that the pay-per-view after that is going to be a mess, kind of like Backlash. I
was going to say, you remember when the Greatest Royal Rumble happened and WrestleMania happened and all this stuff happened and everything else suffers when you put all that stuff into one tiny window.
Yeah, and I'm worried about that. But the nice part is the break will be long enough for the men, as they'll be going to the Superstar Showdown. They won't be part of Evolution. Then they'll have the Saudi Arabia event. So there'll be almost a month break there for them. The women will get a nice break between Evolution and Survivor Series because they can't go to the Saudi Arabia event, right? So maybe it'll all work out.
Maybe it will. Maybe that's what WWE's thinking.
Who knows? It's going to be interesting. By the way, the team I couldn't remember, and I got to kick myself in the face for this, was Gallows and Anderson. That's the team I really wanted to win that three-way
dare
dance.
You wanted them to win, but you didn't even know they were in the match.
I couldn't recall. It just came to me. So, there you go. Oh, also, Andrade Cien Almas versus Daniel Bryan. Fantastic stuff. And the perfect way to end it, too, without anyone really winning that match. Doesn't take away from Andrade Cien Almas. Doesn't take away from Daniel Bryan. Furthers his storyline and furthers the fact that Almas is a star. So
awesome. And it's really been solidifying with Daniel Bryan coming back into the fold has been a great thing for WWE.
Absolutely.
They're giving all these other guys are getting chances. Like Cien Almas, you don't know if you can work with other guys as well as Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan makes him look even more great than he is. So it's helping everybody on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, great.
Hey, let's talk about a segment that totally bombed. How about the New Day 5 Timers Club segment with Booker T? Was that not awful?
Yeah, I didn't think that was that great. I mean, I've seen a lot of people really like it. I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed seeing Booker T on TV, like, not as the commentator, which was cool. But that's about it. I could really care less about the other stuff that happened. I didn't think it was that great. No, a lot of people have said that they really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was awful. The only saving grace of that was having Big E call out Booker T. But then that went nowhere. It's like he called him out for not giving him a title after giving Kofi and Woods a title. And then Booker T acted a little miffed about it and then just kind of ignored it and said, but now you're a member of the 5 Timers Club. And it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
That went that was worthless. So I just thought that was just terrible stuff. So that's just me, I guess. Maybe I'm a little biased, but Carmella and Charlotte Flair, I thought, had a pretty darn good match to close out SmackDown.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good too.
Carmella has impressed me in her last 2 matches she's had. I thought maybe it was because the 3-way dance with Lynch and Charlotte helped her over things, but this match with Charlotte Flair, she wasn't obnoxious. She wrestled well. They had a good storyline, and it ended up being a pretty good match. Yeah, and it just goes to show there's more out there than just the 4 horsewomen. And Alexa Bliss was that trailblazer. Now Carmella's finding her way into her own, and even though Becky Lynch is a part of it, she's really standing out as a top one of them now. And again, women's wrestling is really coming together ever so slightly now. They got their own pay-per-view coming, and I think that's going to be the culmination of the last couple of years of them pushing this new initiative with the women. Oh, I agree with you, and I hope that they decide to make this a yearly thing, and maybe even look at doing a couple of them a year, a couple women's only pay-per-views a year to give them the showcase, because I think that would be fantastic for them.
Yeah, I think you could do 2. I think you can have one earlier in the year and then later in the year. Mm-hmm. I think you still probably could do 2 Royal Rumble matches. If not, you can have your own Royal Rumble match in a separate pay-per-view. I'm not sure. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Would you rather have them? Because I like the idea. I think it's a great idea for the Women's Royal Rumble, but I don't know if you want to have 2 every year.
I thought it went
Rumble matches.
I thought it went really well.
I did too.
The only issue they're going to run into is you blew all your surprises on this last one because it was the first. Now you're at a point where you can't just keep bringing the same people back every year.
Yep.
It's not a surprise at that point. So what do you do to make it better? I want them to have a Royal Rumble every year as well, because I think it makes the Women's Championship more important that way, right? And that's what
it does for sure.
That helps build to the WrestleMania event. So I do think they need to have 2 women's Royal Rumble and a men's Royal Rumble every year. I like how they did one at the beginning and one at the end type of thing. I thought that was a well done thing and laid out perfectly fine. They were completely different types of matches, even though they're the same match and it's a battle royal, right? They made them different each one. So I think they have the ability to do it, no problems. It's a matter of, do we cut down the women's to maybe a 20-woman Royal Rumble instead of a 30?
Yeah,
because you don't want
once you do that, though, I get the problem of you don't want to have the same people there, but you don't want to make it seem like it's lesser,
Well, but you got to remember, as a company, you have 3 times or more men in the company than you do women. So your scale isn't the same, right? So to have a 20-woman battle royal, that's still a lot of women you have to come up with. They don't have 20 women on the main roster.
No, not yet. That's why they've got they might have to just dig it deep into the pool they've got in NXT and the Mae Young Classic. I mean,
yeah,
it's really the only option there. So
that's true. So I'll be curious to see what they do, but that's something that we'll have to watch. I think this is the barometer. If it goes really well, Evolution, I can see them adding a second pay-per-view for women throughout the year, and I can see it growing and signing more women to it. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great, and we'll just have to wait and see how things go.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time, again, to be a wrestling fan. All in, women's pay-per-view. It's all going, pretty swell.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for this week on the Weekly Suplex. We thank you for joining us. Follow us on Twitter at BrianThomas878, at JuicySteen. We will be back next week to talk more wrestling. If you have questions, hit us up. We'll talk to you there. Until then, we'll see you in the ring.
It is exhausting being so talented.
I'm not ready for you!
You are not even worth my time.